Welcome to the Invest in Denver podcast. I'm Orion Enfield, a real estate investor and agent on the FI team with Ian here. And my favorite coffee spot to go to is Radiator Cafe in Sunnyside, Denver.
Radiator Cafe. That is a place I've never heard of, or no one's brought it up yet, to be honest. And what draws you to Radiator?
I got an invite to coffee there maybe like a couple months back, and it's just the most Pinteresty coffee shop I've ever been to in my life, and I loved it.
I'll be honest, like a lot of these coffee shops, like there's only so many minute details that you can get with coffee. And I'll be honest, I'm not considered a coffee aficionado or anything like that, but I enjoy coffee, but you can only have some really good coffee. And the only thing that can really set it apart is the ambiance, it's the environment, it's the people
Totally.
there. So I think you're onto something here where there's a little bit more to the consumption of goods and beverages over there. It's also just the vibe of it. Yeah. Is it like maybe a workable place and good Wi-Fi and all that good stuff?
Yeah, I go there to do some work, some boot camp stuff, some trainings here and there. It's like a super good spot to relax. It's like 50-50 indoor outdoor, and then the outdoor space has super good Wi-Fi, and it's like there's like some covered spots. There's like a pergola situation that has like lights underneath it with like a bunch of flowers everywhere. It's really cool.
It screams Pinterest the more you describe it.
It screams Pinterest, and I got invited there by another agent actually, and she loves that spot, and now it's gonna be my go-to coffee spot.
One last thing, where is it? Oh,
It's
you
in
said Sunnyside,
Sunnyside.
right?
Yeah, so yeah, I'm trying to remember what the cross streets are, but it's on like a little strip of like a couple like restaurants, coffee shops, and like little like boutique retail spots. And there's a lot of really cute, like really small houses around it that are now selling for a lot of money.
All because of that coffee shop, I bet.
hmm Yeah, right next
No,
to the
so
Highlands. Oh,
so good. Radiator Cafe over in Sunnyside. And Orion, thank you so much for even hanging out with me on the Invest in Denver podcast. There's so much to cover here, and I've already had the genuine pleasure of meeting you in person several times now. You're an agent on the FI team, you're a house hacker and investor, but we'll get through all those details further on in the interview. Just really stoked to even hear about your story because after hanging out with you for a little bit and seeing like how you're managing these house hacks and properties, it just gets me really excited to I don't know, talk about the nitty gritty details that we weren't able to talk about before. So really excited about that. But before we talk about present times, I want to talk about how you even came to Denver. I mean, where did you grow up, and maybe like a quick series of events that led you to the Denver area?
sure. So I grew up in a small town called Kirkland, Washington. I think it was ranked as like the number two like fastest growing city in the United States like a few years back because it just blew up really quickly. It turned from like this small sort of like old town feeling like place with like a lot of like small suburby kind of houses, like very traditional American to now think like super bougie. Everything is boutique. A sweater costs $500 and like yeah, like a meal is like $50 and it's ridiculous. And I lived there my entire life. So I've been there from forever. And then went to high school there, graduated, and then came to Colorado to check out schools and checked out Metro, University of Denver, Boulder, and then CSU in that order. And then CSU, Colorado State University, is the one I fell in love with. It was like a perfect 70-degree day. There was like 1,000 people on the rec center and in the on the fields playing like soccer and baseball and football, and I was like, oh my God, I'm in love. So, and then I took a tour of their business school and ended up applying to go in as originally a marketing major at Colorado State, and then ended up graduating with a finance degree.
Nice. Why Colorado of all places? I mean, did you have family here, friends here already, or did you just like, I kind of like the state. I'm going to try it.
I just the states. I was choosing places that I thought would be similar to Washington as far as like a mix of like outdoorsy, the kind of people that you meet. Generally places that would be similar to what I grew up with, but not necessarily the same state that I grew up with. So I went to California, I went to Oregon, I went to Colorado, and then I was checking out schools all around there. and Colorado State is the one that just like really hit the mark as far as everything I was looking for.
I dig it. And then you said that you were going initially into the marketing side, but you ended
Hmm.
up graduating with business administration, investment analysis, all that good stuff, right? What made you
Yep.
even make that switch? I mean, even from marketing, and me myself, like I graduated as a geologist, like that's pretty far
Yeah.
from the whole like finance industry. So I'm curious, like even what those differences are, and if someone were to even look at CSU as a college, what would you recommend to them to really check out, or for those newbies out there, what's good out there?
Colorado State's really cool. It's kind of like centralized amongst like a bunch of it's a really cool college town, but centralized to like Old Town, Fort Collins, and then everything around it is sort of built around the campus to be like supporting to like the student environment. So like a ton of restaurants. I think it actually has like the most or the second most restaurants per capita as far as like any college town in the United States. Um, and yeah, just going out to eat at really cool places was really fun. The business school is actually pretty highly ranked amongst other Colorado business schools. So that was actually a pretty big driving factor for why I went there also. And I will say I didn't go too far down the marketing route. I only took one class and hated it. And then I was also taking my first finance class at the same time, and I loved it. So I just made a quick switch. But I can speak to the finance and accounting schools, and while I didn't like accounting, finance was fantastic.
Mm.
Especially I did a double concentration in corporate finance and investment analysis, and just sort of like really I was dead set on like I'm going to go down the hedge fund or private equity route right after college, and I did everything I possibly could. Like all of my electives were finance based, mostly investment based. Like I ran simulated portfolios, as well as a real portfolio as part of a Summit Fund, which is a cool program at CSU. You have to apply to be essentially part of a team that invests. I think they're at probably like $500,000 right now, and you just invest the school's money. Um,
Hmm.
so I was in that for a semester as sort of like a class team, sort of like club thing, and then my second semester senior year, I was actually a managing director, so I led that class. Um,
Interesting. And what year did you
yeah.
graduate?
I graduated in May of 2020. So I didn't get a graduation because of COVID. I sort of just walked into real life, and I had a job lined up. I was going into being a fund admin at a private equity consulting group. Um, Hated it. Did that for a
Mm.
year. It was essentially just glorified journal entries and accounting.
Mm.
But I thought it'd be my entrance into private equity. And then I switched into commercial real estate a year after being there, and did that for a year before coming onto the FI
Nice.
team.
That's right. And there's a little bit of details in there that you kind of skimmed over, or I kind of want to like address a little bit more just to give that
Totally.
3D person of Orion Enfield, right? I saw that you did an internship over in Hong Kong with ComputerShare, yeah? I mean, what
Yeah.
made you even pull the trigger? I mean, like the whole China aspect, or like going across the world to, I mean, sure, like Hong Kong or China in general is like the next big country, the big economy. I mean, I don't want to say we're neck and neck, but like China is definitely like growing in the amount of scale compared to the US. Like for us, what, 100 years ago, 50 years ago, or something like that. They're becoming a superpower. So I guess what was your experience like working with ComputerShare, and what even made you pull the trigger with them?
So I was looking for an internship at the time, and there was actually a built-in internship program that you could apply for at CSU. And you have to pay for it. You essentially just like pay for the travel and everything, and then you go to wherever. It's an internship abroad program. So there were like 8 options for places I could go, and I thought that Hong Kong would be the most finance heavy. So I chose Hong Kong, and they sort of align you with a company based off of what your studies have been and what your trajectory is looking like. So they actually put me with ComputerShare. It was more administration than anything, like communications, data entry, a
Mm-hmm.
lot of the grunt work that is like just not fun stuff. So
Yeah.
the internship experience actually wasn't very um, indicative
Fruitful,
of what
maybe?
I,
Okay.
yeah, fruitful. uh, and yeah, so that was a pretty bad experience as far as the internship goes. But we had tons of time outside of the internship to just explore Hong Kong. So I had a good time in Hong Kong, just traveling
Yeah.
around, getting to know it.
Yeah. Maybe it was the travel aspect that you got more out of than the actual work or internship, what you could have gotten out of that business portion of it, right? And speaking of which, I mean, maybe we could touch on that a little bit more. What was it about China that, like, I don't know, maybe there was certain culture shocks, food, like, was there anything in particular that you really enjoyed about staying there for a couple months? Yeah.
Yeah, I would say the thing that like struck me the most was the transportation and the infrastructure was just so much different than the United States. Like we were taking the subway everywhere, like absolutely everywhere. Like nothing was not on the subway. And then the infrastructure, like you would go into like a 20-story, 30-story, 40-story skyscraper, and then there would be like just the mall is on stories 17 through 28.
Oh, no
And
way.
yeah, and you would never know because on the first 9 floors is like a supermarket, and then businesses, and then residential, and it's like what is going on here? But then but you have access to floors 17 through 28, and that's the mall, and you'd go shopping at like your just standard Nike.
That is so
Um,
interesting. And
yeah,
and I realized too that there's maybe just not enough room to go outwards, so they have to build up. So your malls
yep,
have to go in the middle of these skyscrapers. It's just kind of
yep.
crazy to me. So yeah, and then you were mentioning too, like going from the investment analysis portfolio, managing portfolios even for your school, like that sounds like such an interesting group. But you were mentioning that you were going into the commercial real estate space. Was it with tributary real estate from what I gathered?
hmm
And then
Yep.
what exactly were you doing in that position?
Sure. So tributary real estate is tenant rep brokerage. So think of your standard real estate agent for residential, just getting people into houses. On the commercial side, they were getting people into offices. So think like if Google needs 5 stories somewhere centralized downtown, but they want to be by a bunch of restaurants, we would essentially be the brokers for Google to get office space downtown instead of like a traditional buyer getting a house. And then you just
Mm-hmm.
make a standard commission on that. The structure is a little different because it's not a percentage. It's at the time it was like a buck 25 a square foot, and then multiply that out by the number of years for the lease. So if it's like a 10-year lease for 10,000 square feet, you're going to make a like $125,000 commission. And then you split that 50-50 with the firm. But at the time, I wasn't a broker. I was actually the one analyst for the office underneath all of the brokers, sort of doing all of the support tasks. So whenever we get like investors or people who are looking to get in commercial real estate, in like a different avenue than just office leasing, I was like the go-to guy for running analyses for them.
I see. And then, going into the commercial real estate space first before you hop into the residential space, was there any sort of like big differences now, knowing what you know now in the residential space compared to commercial? I mean, I know there's a lot of back end things and it's a lot more cut and dry, especially when people want to invest or analyze certain properties in the commercial space. Like, hey, if the numbers don't work out, I am not purchasing this property. Versus residential, it may be a little bit more emotional. Is that something you also saw, or what else did you see within the commercial space?
Absolutely. I
Yeah.
think you're totally 100% right. I have a tough time actually seeing things from more of an emotional lens. So the commercial real estate side seemed to be a better fit for me originally because I look at properties as an income source and an investment avenue. So I figured that was the route. But taking that into residential real estate was actually probably it was probably good to go down that route first because I got really good at analyzing properties, got really comfortable with the numbers, and now when I'm analyzing properties, just say on the MLS for either buyers or for myself, it's super simple for me to tell if something is a good deal like right away based off of just like
Mm,
basic like simple numbers that I'm seeing
yeah.
based off market data. Um, I will say I have a lot more fun with residential, which is why I left commercial. I don't see necessarily like houses as like a home. I do look at them from like the investment side. So that sort of like drove my wanting to join the FI team as opposed to like another brokerage.
I dig it. And spoiler alert, Orion is on the fight team.
I am on the FI team.
Yeah, I mean, it's honestly, it's funny, like you coming into the commercial space and then leaving to go into residential, but you still have that commercial mindset of analyzing properties, investing, and things like that. It's funny how many people we work with that have that investor mindset that would be great for commercial space, but they need a place to live as well. You know, residential is so necessary for the common person in America. Like you need shelter. It's one of the three basic
Hmm.
things of living: water, food, shelter. So with that shelter, with that being a general necessity for humans to live, why not mitigate that expense as much as possible, right?
Yes.
So I guess before we get into that whole specific portion of it, I'm curious what that transition was like going from commercial and going into residential. And it sounds like maybe you even got your first house hack while you were with Tributary, or maybe a little bit after. What was that timeline like?
We can go back a little bit. So right after graduating college, I had lined up my job in private equity admin. Essentially, I was making 55K, and well, I had already come across Bigger Pockets and sort of fell in love with the concepts during my senior year of college. And I was thinking to myself, like, okay, I just have to save up some money and get that 3% to 5% down payment on my first house hack. So I sort of ran out of patience at some point, and then um, I asked my dad if he would go in on it with me, and he lended me some money, and then I had about 15 grand of my own saved up, and then I think it was about 4 months after graduating college and being 4 months into my first job, I went and met Craig Kurloff, the leader of the FI team, and bought a house within a few days of meeting him. Actually, at least
Nice.
went under contract on a house within a few days of meeting him.
Mhm.
And I think it was at
What?
his first meetup ever, actually.
Oh, no way. Heck yeah.
Yeah,
So what
it's pretty
year
cool.
was that at the time?
That was so I graduated May 2020, and then I closed on the house October of 2020. So like think like meeting him like four months after graduating in like September, and then closed like within 30 days. So the end of
Nice.
October was when I closed.
How, I mean, I wasn't around as a real estate agent in 2020, but what was the market like then compared to what it's like right now? Because I guess to brief everyone how it is right now, if you haven't heard already, the sky's falling. No, just kidding. So, like, mortgage rates are pretty high compared to like what we've seen in the past couple of years. And there's a little bit more supply, and things are staying on the market a little bit longer than usual. Let's say like 30 days versus what we were so used to when I first started back in 2021, where it was maybe 14 to 10 days on the market. You know, that's about the average in the greater Metro Denver area. So when you were purchasing in late 2020, was it kind of similar? What was the market like at that time?
I think the average days on market was like seven. It was things were flying off the shelves. Like any good properties were getting scooped up immediately. We had taken like a small downturn because of like the start of COVID, but then things ramped up really quickly once people sort of got the hang of it, and got used to COVID a little bit. And then I was sort of in that ramp up period again. So like things tanked for a few months, like after COVID started, and then things started blowing up again. Because like you can think of like the 20% like annualized year over year appreciation that we saw. That was very much happening. So I was like right in the middle of it, and then I just happened to be fortunate enough to not buy at the tail end of that rapid appreciation. I was like right in the middle. So I bought my house at 510, and then I think at the peak of the market, I had it appraised actually, and it appraised at 720.
Nice. I love to
Yeah.
see it, man. It's the whole don't wait to buy real estate, buy real estate and wait. That whole appreciation is a big factor. You can't really really factor it into your analyses or anything like that, but you know it's sort of working in the background to your advantage. So it's nice to know that you know, you had that same mentality of like, hey, this stuff works. I'm looking at house hack, and I guess before I continue on that thought, you
Mhm.
mind explaining what house hacking is and maybe like what you did for house hacking with this first property that you bought?
Sure. So house hacking is when you buy a house with I'd probably a low percent down payment. So if you're a first time home buyer, it's probably 3%. So you buy a house for 3% down, you live in one space, and then you rent out the rest. So you could either buy like a duplex and you live in one half and rent out the other, or what I did was I rented out all the bedrooms except for the bedroom that I was living in. Originally started off actually just living in the living room and then renting out all the bedrooms separately. So I was pulling the Craig Curlop and living behind a curtain but minus the curtain and renting out all the bedrooms to live for free and cash flow a little bit. And then my girlfriend moved in after she graduated a few months later, and then we took the master bedroom and rented out all the other bedrooms. And at that point, we were just like break even, like cover the mortgage, cover the utilities. Girlfriend and I are both living for free.
You, yeah, what's great is that you own the place. Now you have the master bedroom. You're renting out all the other bedrooms and you're living for free. For a lot of people that are, I guess, first purchasing a home, that's the biggest expense. Your mortgage is like 30 to 50% of your paycheck. And that's insane to me. And how do you even level up your own financial security if you're paying or dedicating so much of your income just to living expenses? I don't understand that, but like, I guess what initially really triggered that for you, and was Taylor on board, Taylor being your significant other, like, was she on board at first, or what was that like as far as transitioning?
Very supportive, but not necessarily into the concept herself. I was definitely the driving force. So I bought the house before she had graduated college. And the plan was she would like graduate and either just find a place to rent. But the likelihood was going to be that she was going to move in with me because we'd been together for 3 years at that point. So the idea was that she was going to move in and then we'd live together in the master bedroom or wherever in that house for as long as necessary, and then buy the next house hack because it would be close to that like 1 year mark where you can own or occupy, purchase another property. So the stipulation for anybody who doesn't know is you can buy with 3 to 5% down on an owner occupied property. So you have to, if you're house hacking, you can put like 15 grand down on a $500,000 house, move in, rent out all the bedrooms, live for free for 1 year. And then the idea is to, after that 1 year, like on the dot, buy another house and do it again. That way you can rent out the bedroom that you were in, cash flow, whatever that number is, and then you're living at a new place where you're living for free again. And then that's how it scales, is property by property, year over year, as like a baseline is how you build up a cash flowing portfolio.
Love it, dude. That's great synopsis of like what people should do in general. Like this is the stuff that we're trying to educate the population of, even like in Denver or even nationwide. Like you could do this anywhere. And to be honest, I did it at a high cost of living area like San Diego, and people are like, whoa, you can't buy a house there. Like, yeah, I did. Like this totally is literally what I did. And now I'm seeing the benefits, kind of like what you did with like the appreciation factor of it, like with general markets and the sentiment and people wanting to live in these areas that are beautiful like Denver or San Diego. That appreciation comes up because the demand is really high as well. People are willing to pay that extra premium to live in a place like that. So rents go up, appreciation goes up, and hopefully we don't have COVID 2.0, but nonetheless, like this is all situations where this is tried and true, and so many people have been doing this even before house hacking was even considered a buzz term at the time. So, but nonetheless, man, I'm really glad that you even started it. And I guess if for those people, I know it sounded like that you weren't, I guess it sounds like that you didn't have really a problem with Taylor, like understanding the house hacking thought process or things like that. Sure, you like moved a little bit further from that continuum of comfortability versus profitability. You moved a little bit more towards comfortability now that you have the master bedroom, but you know, that's usually when you have another person come into play with like this investing, you can't live on the living room anymore. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so
exactly.
With those people that have that significant other, I guess, what would you recommend to them if they're trying to convince their significant other to do this whole house hacking thing, live with tenants and all that good stuff? Any words of advice for starting that conversation?
Depending on where you are, I would say try to buy a property that has the ability to create multiple units. It doesn't necessarily have to be like a functioning legal zoned duplex, but something that you can split up, say with like a mother-in-law suite or a separate entrance where you could simply just add a wall or a door, and it's essentially 2 units. Um, that's a super easy pitch because you can tell your partner like, hey, like we're not going to have to deal face to face with any other tenants like or roommates. Like we don't have to live with roommates anymore. We're going to have an entire unit to ourselves. I'll take care of all the management if you don't want to do anything, and we're both going to live for free. Like you don't have to pay rent, I don't have to pay rent, we don't have to pay a mortgage. And then even like if that was it and we just bought this one property after 30 years, if we own it outright, just make our payments and never refinance, we're going to own a house outright in 30 years and have never paid a mortgage payment or rent ever.
That's so
and
good.
never have to have roommates again either.
Yeah. And yeah, it's funny how I know you're a little bit younger than me, and I'm 33, and here I am doing my third house hack, and I'm starting to get to the point where I don't want to do this anymore. The whole house hacking thing, you know?
Okay.
There's some sort of like comfortability portion of it, and now like, okay, I'm getting some more income from my previous properties now, and now I can invest that money with the actual investment property rather than on my next house hack. So I don't have to deal with anyone living with me or anything like that. So I'm at that point, that cusp where it's like, okay, now I can live how I want, but I can use that money or capital that I'm getting from my previous properties through refinances, HELOCs, cash flow, what have you, to actually invest in a place where I don't have to make myself super uncomfortable, especially if I'm trying to start a family. So that makes a lot of sense, like going forward. So make the sacrifices now in your 20s to live the life you want in your 30s. So it makes a lot of sense, and you're living proof of it too, Orion.
Are you?
Yep.
I hate to ask a question already, but are you stopping house hacking entirely, or would you just buy a different kind of house hack, say like something with a detached ADU, so you don't have to? It just acts as its own separate rental property.
Totally. That's a good question. And yes to your situation. So let's say I think the biggest thing is like, where do we want to live? If it's in an area that we actually want to be in, let's say it is in the city of Denver, and there's a way to have a side-by-side duplex rather than like an up-down where you have to deal with like footsteps or something like that, because they're older homes in the city of Denver. You know what I mean? So there's a lot of things that now I'm a realtor. Now that I've house hacked a couple times, I have some standards at which I want to live in, you know?
Totally.
So I'm fine with it. I think the biggest thing is, how separate is that going to be? And I'm leaning more towards the comfortability part of that house hacking spectrum. So if the numbers work out and it's in a place that we want to live in, then I will 100% go for it.
Yeah. I was just curious because you've seen my place, and my place is essentially a side-by-side duplex where there's an attached unit on the back, not under me. So if you wanted to, you could buy a house like that and like never have to deal with them. You never hear them. They won't ever hear you. You never cross paths. All you do is you like, they have their separate driveway. And I was just curious if you'd go that route or if you're just done.
Yeah, no, it's something that I will be open to it. If I find the right property and all that good stuff, it makes total sense to me. So
For sure.
I know that I guess you're alluding to your second house hack, which is the one you purchased pretty recently. But I guess to give a quick summary of the numbers behind your first house hack, you know, like how many beds, how many baths, what are you operating it as right now? And is it cash flowing, or what's the mortgage like versus rent?
Sure. Gross rent between 5 bedrooms. So it's a 5-bed, 4-bath, or it's a 5-bed, 3.5-bath. So master bedroom has its own bathroom. And then there's 2 upstairs bedrooms that share a bathroom. And then there's two basement bedrooms that share a bathroom. And then there's like a middle floor that has a half bath, sort of like the on the go bathroom, like by the kitchen and living room and everything. Rent out all 5 bedrooms, so 3 upstairs and then 2 in the basement, for a gross income, so like cumulative income of $4,370. And then the mortgage payment is $2,700 on the dot. That's including PMI, which is that extra insurance payment if you made less than 20% down. So $4,370 income, $2,700 mortgage. Round out the utilities at like $500 a month. So the monthly expenses like combined are like $3,200. Set aside a little bit for reserves. But if you're just taking like just straight up the gross rents minus just the flat expenses, we're coming out to, let's see, 4,370 minus 3,200 is 1,170. So 1170 of cash flow before reserves, and then after reserves, if you're taking out like $400 a month, it'd be like 770. So like roughly $800, 770 to $800 of cash flow after not living there. That's having all the bedrooms rented out with me like hitting the road to house hack number 2.
Yeah. I dig it, man. And I followed along with my paper math. So you're great
There you
at
go.
mental math. That's why you got
Yeah.
those analyst positions. But yeah, man, I mean, even those numbers, even without the reserve portion of it, because that extra $400 is just like a cushion for you to like take care of any sort of water heaters, roof leaks, what have you. So that like the hard expenses that you have to have every month, you're still coming out with almost $1,200 per month on that single property now that you moved out. I mean, if you look at that cash on cash return, I mean, you're looking at what, $15,000 of your own money. You partnered up with your dad. And then, so looking at that 15,000, like over the course of 1 year, that's almost 100% year over year cash on cash return. Kind of insane, man. Like not many people can actually get that kind of asset returns in the stock market, or like maybe like with call put options, but like it's no joke how much benefits you can get with like the whole real estate space with tax benefits, the loan pay down, getting tenants in there, and you're running a business. Like I think that's something that people don't really take into account too. Like you're learning how to run a business in your own home. So it's very close to home and you're understanding how this all works, and you can translate that into other ventures that you're trying to do in the meantime. So I love it, man. I love the numbers on this.
Thanks,
so
man.
with this next property, I know it's over in the Sherrillwood area because we actually did a YouTube video on it, and we went through the whole place. It's a 6-bed, 3-bath. It's 3 units on one property. And I only heard very certain snippets of it from Craig, where he was trying to buy the property as well, but he was seeing some things or kind of wishy-washy or got cold feet on the property, but you took advantage of it and got this property. So this is a story I haven't heard myself, but before we get into that story of why Craig didn't pull the trigger, tell us a little bit about the property. And for people that want to get an in-depth look, there's a YouTube video on it. And if you know, send me a DM or write a comment below and I'll send it over to you. So that being said, Orion, what is the property and how are you operating it right now?
Quick clarification: he didn't go for the same property. He was going for a property about two blocks away, similar structure. I think it was also a 6-bed, 3-bath, so like almost identical. And he was going to do the exact same thing, where he was going to turn it into essentially a triplex. And because of foundation issues, it turned into a crapshoot for him. And he had to get out of that deal. So his like just a couple blocks away didn't work out, but this one worked out how he was planning.
Yep.
At least so
Thanks
far.
for that clarification. I thought it was you guys were fighting, jousting for that position of
That'd be hilarious.
getting this place. Yeah.
But about the property. Okay, 6-bed, 3 baths, 3,000 square feet. Let's see, it's in Sherrillwood, so about 10 minutes north of downtown Denver, just up I-25. Then if you get off I-25 on the left, just go a couple blocks and that's my house. So it is a 4-bed, 2-bath, single-family house with an attached 2-bed, 1-bath apartment. That used to be a gunsmithing shop, but the old owner was really DIY. Put in like an IKEA kitchen, turned like the open space into a couple bedrooms and a living space, and now it's a 2-bed, 1-bath, 1,000 square foot apartment that he was renting out. So essentially a duplex, operating as a duplex from day one. But then as I was walking it, I realized it would be super easy to turn the basement of the main house, the 4-bed, 2-bath, into a separate unit, because all you'd have to do is put up one quick wall between the garage entry and then like the main unit, and then boom, it's a separate unit. So people can go into the garage and straight down to the basement, and it's a 2-bed, 1-bath with no kitchen. Nice. I put in a little like mini fridge kitchenette sort of situation because it's an Airbnb, but no full kitchen down there. So on the property, 2 kitchens, amongst total 6-bed, 3-bath house.
Awesome. And a lot of people have their reservations with basements, with like Coloradans, like you can see some really decked out basements, or just some basements that are just used for storage, where it's not finished. You don't have much drywall, not much insulation or things like that. But I guess explain to the people out there who haven't seen the video, because you should definitely check out the video. But for those people that don't know exactly what, a good furnished and finished basement looks like, how do you make it not feel like a basement?
Dig out the egress windows. So, for people who don't know, egress windows are escapable windows. So, like in basements, you'll often see at the ceiling line, there's like a small cutout of like just to let a little bit of light in, maybe a little bit of air, and there's like a sliding window. Tiny, can't escape that at all. Not something legally escapable. But egress windows are when they dig out a certain dimension of window where you can, like from a bedroom or from the living room, crawl out and up like a ladder and escape in case of a fire. And adding those windows lets in a ton of light, doesn't make it makes it no longer feel like a basement at all. It's just like an extra living space in like a regular house. So what I did was I added egress windows to the 2 bedrooms downstairs that didn't have windows before. And now it just doesn't feel like a basement. Like I furnished them with beds and couches and made it just a whole separate living space, and it feels like a small apartment.
Love it, man. And also just the like living area as well. I mean, the living room portion of it. I mean, you got a TV, like you said, you got the mini fridge, you got a microwave, everything that it almost operates as a hotel, but it feels like a home. You just have these smaller accommodations that accommodate like a hotel, but you're going into your own space. You got your own 2 bedrooms down there, and then you also have your own bathroom as well. So it's kind of nice that I guess that whole hotel versus Airbnb situation, a lot of people are leaning towards the Airbnb because it just feels like a home. So having this basement feel like a home, you can charge that premium. You can have people be a little bit more accommodating towards, or not accommodating, but I guess accepting of a basement rental versus, charging a little bit more for something that's on surface level. So you're still like trying to make the most out of your property, but it's not like you're getting people into a dungeon. You know what I mean? So
Yeah,
I like that aspect of it.
Yeah, I would hate putting people into a dungeon. I wanted to make sure that it was good from day one. So it feels really nice. Like as soon as you go downstairs, like it is bright as all hell.
Yeah.
So you walk in, and as long as it's daytime, like it just looks like just any like ground level apartment.
Cool. And then that transformation going from the gunsmithing shop to 2 units operating as an Airbnb while you live on the property as well. So I guess as far as units go, I know each of them is a 2-1, a 2-1, and a 2-1, right?
Mm-hmm.
Was there anything that you've done to the property that, I guess made it available to operate as an Airbnb in all regards?
I mean, you could even have an Airbnb where there isn't like their own private entrance. But what I wanted to do was make sure that all of the units had a private entrance, had security. So there's multiple ring doorbells and ring cameras, multiple keypad entries, like a keypad entry for every unit, and then separating things with walls or doors to make sure that each unit is like completely separate and nobody's going to have to cross paths with each other. And then on top of that, making sure that there's enough parking and designated parking for each unit. So there's a 2-car garage in the front that my girlfriend and I park in, and we have the main unit here that I'm in. There's a driveway with 2 spots right coming out from that garage, and then off to the side is like a long driveway that leads to that attached back apartment, like the fully finished one with the kitchen. And then there's tons of street parking also, like in front of our house, just in front of like the front yard. There's a designated like 2 spots for street parking where people can park for the basement unit is what I've designated. So garage spots for me and my girlfriend, side driveway for the attached apartment, and then street parking for the basement unit.
Yeah. And I was curious about that too. Like, with all these people living at your place, where do they park?
Yeah.
But it does seem like there's ample street parking when I was like driving by there, and you have a long driveway as well, which really like helps out with that. Yeah, and something that I'm thinking about too, and I have to deal with this on my own property, is like a carport because I don't have a garage
Mm,
for even my own cars, you know? So having that longer driveway, I'm considering of like putting in more carport just to like have that blockage from the elements, whether that's from the sun, wind, rain, hail, snow, right? So
totally.
if is that something that you've thought about as well, or are you sort of leaving it be until you fit like until you actually fill out your Airbnb spots?
I'm leaving it be for now. The parking hasn't caused any issues so far. I haven't done Airbnb through like snowy Colorado weather yet, so we'll see how
Yeah.
that goes. Especially as people like they're probably going to be coming in during the winter months for like skiing because we're pretty close to the mountains.
Yeah.
So we'll probably have to put a carport over that side driveway eventually, but street parking is always going to be street parking, so can't do anything there.
Okay. Yeah.
But it is funny that you mentioned that parking is one of like the top three things I look for when I'm looking at properties.
Yeah, and it's something that not many people really take advantage of, or at least not take advantage of, but really keep that in mind, right? It's like, wow, this is a great setup, but there's only street parking, you know, like
Yep.
that's something
Yep.
that you definitely have to take into consideration. So, with that being said, I mean, the place itself is an awesome place. Definitely check out the YouTube video, like I said, because Orion goes through each and every part of it. And there's even some minute details that might help you in your next house hack with like our own tour as far as like putting up doors, what the binders say as far as like the guest check-in and all that good stuff. So there's some really good details for setting up your own Airbnb in your house hack. But with that being said, Orion, what are the numbers behind it? I know you mentioned on your first
Sure.
one some really solid numbers, but what do you remember from this current house hack that you're doing?
Sure. So the strategy on this one is it's a live-in house hack. So I'm living in one unit with my girlfriend, and the other two units are both on Airbnb. So the numbers come out to be roughly gross revenue, so cumulative income of $4,500 a month between the two Airbnbs. That's assuming like a combined $200 a night at or like roughly 21, 22 days a month booked. So like 70%. So at 70% occupancy, $200 a night between the units comes out to about $4,500 gross revenue. The monthly mortgage is 3,365. And then the utilities are coming out to roughly about 400 to $500 a month. So the combined expenses are 3,865. The gross income is 4,500. So that means the net income is 600 and oh, you can tell me you're doing the paper math. It's 600 something.
Yep, just about 700 on the high
Yep.
600 side for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. So like even with your current deal, you're living for free and you're cash flowing a little bit on it, and then having your first investment property now fully rented out. Sure, you might have some vacancies in the middle of it, but with expenses and cap or reserves also tacked on, you're looking at 700 to $800 from cash flow on that property. So it's nice just having this cushion and also saving so much money from living for free. A lot of people like forget that there's that aspect of it. Like, sure, you might try to cash flow, but the biggest part of it is not having to pay that full mortgage every single month, because with these interest rates, that's the biggest thing. You don't really want to pay that full like 3,000, 3,500 per month. How do you do that? By renting out certain rooms or just living a little bit more uncomfortable so you can hit that profitable stage in your early investing career. So I love it, man. And I guess the final phase, and which is where you are currently, is you're a current agent on the fight team. And a lot of people, yeah, let's go. I know with a lot of people on the fight team, like they've been house hacking or just started house hacking, and they want to help other people do the same thing. And it's astonishing how many people just don't understand how this works. And I want to say that it's a necessity in order to join the FI team to have an investment property already, whether that is a house hack or something out of state, it doesn't matter. You need to help out investors with that mindset. In order to do that, you need to do it yourself. So you've gone through the process already and all that good stuff. So what's your experience been like, Orion, and why did you even choose the FI team in the first place?
Sure. House hacking, I'll just say, has changed my life. since graduating college and getting into a career path that I absolutely hated. Buying one house allowed me the freedom to quit that job and take 3 months off and look for the next one and decide what I want to do. And that got me down the path of commercial real estate. And I was like, okay, this whole combination of like real estate and finance, like my experience and my passion seems okay. And then buying my second house hack gave me the freedom to leave that job and leave the W-2 life entirely. So after 2 properties, I'm financially independent. Baseline,
Wow.
covered my living expenses. I don't pay rent, and I have about $2,000 a month of cash flow coming in to pay off all of the bills and everything, all the necessities. So I'm baseline financially independent. 2 properties has changed my life entirely, and it's just been insane. I'm 24 years old. I'm out of the W-2 life. I have committed to the 1099 life for the rest of my life. And all I want to do is help other people get more house hacks or get into their first house hack. I've talked to you about potentially going to colleges around Colorado and talking to juniors and seniors who are going to graduate and get into this W-2 lifestyle. And I know like a lot of people like just default to that because that's just what they've been told by their parents. It's all they've seen. But just buying one house hack gave me the freedom to quit a job in a career path that I hate. And I just want to help other people like at least have the freedom to have some choice in their life. And maybe they're not in a career path that they hate, but maybe they have something in mind that's better. Like that, like, oh my gosh, like I would love to do that, but how the heck could I leave a job that's paying $70,000 a year, and that one's going to pay $30,000 a year? House hack: never pay rent again, never pay a mortgage again, save, and then even just with one house hack, it just gives you so much freedom.
Yeah, no, dude, that's huge. And I'm starting to realize it more and more, like how much people pay in rent, let's say for a typical 2 bed, 1 bath in whatever general area. Let's say it is $2,000 a month. $2,000 a month for the year is $24,000. If you're getting paid 50 grand right out of college, that is half of your income. And that is even before taxes. Like there's so much to consider with all this stuff. I mean, let's say you are renting right now. There's still options for you to still live a little bit more uncomfortably by renting out the other bedroom, like just live as minimally as possible. And you're setting yourself up for success for the 10 years, even 5 years, even 3 years down the road where you're like, wow, I thank you so much, past Ian, for even doing this. I would have never assumed that I would have gotten to this place in the first place, So I find it to be generally awesome, the whole house hacking thing. And I'm trying to teach my little cousins too, of like, hey, you guys are already used to renting by the room in some place that someone else owns. Yep. Why not own the place and keep that same standard of living frugally, renting out the rooms? And now you can get the loan pay down, you can get the tax benefits, and you can like ride the wave of appreciation at the same time too. So with all that being said too, Orion, I know you're trying to gear yourself towards that ideal client of, college students fresh out of college, and, sure, they're starting with their W-2 or getting that salary, but how are you actually implementing that? Or what do you foresee yourself like really speaking to?
Sure. So coming to a college near you, I will be starting meetups around Colorado. Just talking to just anybody who would be willing to come. It's geared towards seniors in college, so I'm going to be hosting meetups at say like breweries and bars where people can come and learn about house hacking and how to live for free, like right after they graduate. But if anybody in that college town wants to come, I'd love to talk to anybody who's interested in house hacking. I'm sorry, and then could you repeat the question? I feel like I'm not answering it.
No, that's pretty much it. Like, how are you really speaking to these people, or like, how are you attracting them? Because you're a new agent.
Sure.
Like, that's the biggest thing of like starting your whole lead funnel, right? Your lead generation. How many people can you get into that funnel, and how many people can, like, the amount of people that you help close with house hacks is directly proportional to how many people you get into the lead funnel, right? So, I mean, you pretty much answered it, but is there anything else you wanted to speak on as far as like coming to a college near you? I got a meetup coming up.
No, that's pretty much it. I'm not a cold caller. I'm not a door knocker. I don't want to honestly just waste my time with buyers that aren't going to be interested in real estate investing as a concept. Like I said, I'm not much of an emotional buyer myself, and the people I want to help are people like me who see real estate as an avenue of investment. So even if it's just as like a baseline, living for free right after college and not paying rent anymore, like you said, instead of paying 2,000 bucks a month for rent and paying like a cumulative 24,000 bucks over the course of a year to live somewhere, what could you do with that extra $24,000? Invest it in more house hacks or invest in your 401k, or you could just spend that on your living expenses and make life amazing for you just by having one property under your belt and living for free. And I'll say like the benefits just greatly outweigh the sacrifice that you're making by either living with roommates or playing a small role as a landlord and managing something for like an hour a month. Like if you live in a duplex, like you're not going to come across your tenants at all, but you're going to be living free, if not really close to free, and saving at least 24,000 bucks a year. And then on top of that, you're writing appreciation. So if you assume like 3% like appreciation, like standard, like on a $500,000 house, that's an extra 15 grand a year. And then you take into account cash flow. Like if you're actually cash flowing on your property, say that's an extra $5,000 a year. So 15,000 bucks of appreciation, 5,000 bucks of cash flow, $24,000 saved on rent. You're already at $44,000 return on year one. And then you think of your initial investment, which was probably 3% on, let's just hypothetically say, a $500,000 house. $44,000 of income on a $15,000 investment is more than a 200% ROI. And I can't think of another investment vehicle that does that and gives you that amount of freedom for your life. Like, it's insane. And then we're not even taking into account the tax benefits. And then the debt paydown. Debt paydown is the one I'm totally spacing on. With every monthly payment that you're making using that rental income, you pay the mortgage, and then you're making like an extra $1,000 a month, just adding to your net worth. Sure, it's not liquid, but it's adding $12K over the course of every year. So we're at $56,000. $56,000 annually on a $15,000 investment that you have to manage for like 1 to 2 hours a month. It's ridiculous.
100%, man. No, I want to say you're preaching to the choir, but at the same time, as a choir boy listening to the priest, like this is exactly why we got into the game, and this is exactly what we want to preach to people. And this is so good, man. So good, Orion. So, with that being said, I feel like there's so much more to you, but I mean, we're running out of time here, but sure. I do want to turn the tables and give you the mic as the interviewer. So, Orion, I'm going to give you the mic. Is there anything that you want to ask me under the stars? I will be more than willing to ask or answer it.
Okay. Well, you already answered a question about what's next for you, house hacking wise. So I'll ask you something about the market. So with interest rates rising, we're like 7.5% right now. What do you see? What do you see in 2023, like 2023, as far as interest rates? Do you think they're going to go up, go down, and how do you think that's going to conflict with the low supply that we're still seeing in the market? Do you think that the upwards pressure of low supply and high demand is still going to outweigh the rising interest rates, or do you think the rising interest rates and the affordability problems are going to take over and push demand so far down that we start seeing dramatic price decreases?
Yeah. Very valid question and very time sensitive as well. So 2023, I do not have that crystal ball, just to like put in that little asterisk of before my whole answer. But at the same time, like I have been hearing rumors that Fannie Mae is planning on bringing down the interest rate pretty significantly, 4-ish%. I don't know how true that is, but I just saw an article on CNBC and various other platforms where, hey, they're rethinking this whole like supply is now, I guess supply is still like going in a linear trend, but demand has significantly dropped almost at a logarithmic scale, you know? So it's pretty significant how much demand dropped just because interest rates rose significantly. And it's funny how that sentiment quickly changed buyers, and sellers are trying to accommodate for that. And the Fed did exactly what they wanted to do. They wanted to decrease demand while supply was trying to catch up. So if they were to bring down the interest rates going into 2023, I think it's going to cause another frenzy because the supply has not kept up. Even right now, in my opinion, demand is still really high. Because when we were in the 2020, 2021 phase, or even early 2022, we were in such a hot seller's market. We were looking at, like on a scale of 1 to 100, we were looking at 95, 90% the whole time. But now with interest rates like going that much higher, demand like has brought that sentiment down to maybe like 60 to 70%. But in my opinion, it is still a seller's market just based on how much supply is in the market right now. So if you look at any sort of like Denver market analyses or Denver market trends report or something like that, you're still seeing like 30 days on market, which is still really quick compared to like a healthy market where you should be seeing like 2 to 3 months on the market. So that would be like 60 days to 90 days on the market on average in the greater Metro Denver area. So like I said, I guess to summarize everything that I've said, if we were to see the interest rates decrease next year, I think we're going to go into a whole nother frenzy again because supply just hasn't kept up. Supply chain shortages, labor shortages, things like that have just not caught up to the demand yet.
Awesome. Thanks, man.
Yeah, for sure. Anything else you got?
Let's see. I sort of asked both my questions in one, but let's see. Okay. As a new agent on the FI team, what are you seeing mainly as like your primary leverage points for the buyers that you have under your belt right now against, when you're making offers to sellers?
Yeah, for sure. I am asking for anything under the moon.
Okay.
I mean, at this point in time, like it really does depend on the property, whether it's priced well. If the listing agent is corresponding with me, like if they're giving me the time of day, great. I already know that, hey, certain sellers are looking to get rid of their property as soon as possible, depending on how long it's been on the market already, the condition of the property as well. But the thing is that certain homes in certain neighborhoods, if they're priced well, they are still selling very quickly, which brings me back to what I said earlier. Like, yeah, there's still a really high demand if it's priced appropriately, So going back to what you were saying or asking of like, what am I asking for? What am I leveraging as a buyer agent? Common things that a lot of sellers don't necessarily see as from like a house hacker's point of view is that, yeah, we need egress windows and basements. And those are some really big price points of like, you're saying maybe $4,000 to $5,000 per window. I mean, as of right now, windows are pretty expensive and the timeline is pushed back pretty far, like 4 weeks to 6 weeks before it actually gets installed. Right. So that's something I'm constantly asking for if it's not already implemented or installed in the basement. Water heaters is another really good one. Anything that's big ticket item. I would highly suggest like any sort of buyer that's looking at house hack, like try to do the work yourself, but any high ticket item, I will try to negotiate for you at the closing table. I think there's a little bit to be said about like put in some elbow grease, learn the property, and the more you uncover, the more you understand like, okay, this is what a house is like and this is how you actually improve on it. If everything's already done for you, you're not going to be learning, you're just going to be winning. That's it. So there's a lot that I could leverage on, and at the past 2 or 3 closings, like in September and October, we've gotten $5,000 in seller credits, egress windows installed, water heaters replaced, new electrical panel. I mean, I've gotten everything under the stars, and it's funny how like going from a buyer's agent in early 2022 into late 2022 right now, they are now giving me the time of day and want to negotiate with me, which is fascinating. And I absolutely love it because I look like a godsend to my buyers.
It's great to hear. It's the shifting from a pure seller's market to more of a buyer's market is pretty nice.
Yeah, no, dude, for sure. And this is something that I learned that experienced agents have that quality about them that you really can't see in any other agent that is newer. Because, I mean, sure, you get like the more experienced agents that have been in the business for like 20 years, but they don't know how to work like an online contract system. That's a debilitating factor of it. But the experience of going through several different types of markets is so important, and us as newer agents, we just got to understand the market and understand what it was like previous, like sure on paper, and then we'll experience it the longer that we're in this business, and us working with investor minded buyers, we want to I guess we don't have that much convincing to do because they see the numbers in it and it makes a lot of sense to them. So, yeah, to bring it all home, the only drawback with the newer agent is that we don't have the experience. However, we've done this work ourselves and we've house hacked ourselves. We understand the numbers and we're living proof of this concept. So I would definitely leverage that experience, like going into like your conversations with buyers and other people going forward. So yeah, man, I feel like you got the experience. It's just a matter of like implementing it or getting other people under your belt to like live that same life that you are so gracious of, you know? So yeah, I find it to be a really fun place to be in as far as being a realtor and an investor at the same time.
It's a super easy pitch being like, hey, I'm living for free and I have been ever since I graduated college. I can help you do the same. As like the bare minimum. It's so fun to talk to people about house hacking.
Yeah, totally, man. Well, thank you so much, Orion. Like, I feel like this is already so much gold in one episode, and a lot of people that are trying to house hack. This is something that, you know, definitely look at your YouTube video as far as like doing these tours. What is a house hackable property? What does it look like? And what are the numbers behind it all? It's all on my YouTube channel. But nonetheless, before I get into that, Orion, how can people even reach out to you if they wanted to work out with you?
Sure.
Or work with you, not just work out.
You can reach out to me on any social media platform. Instagram is Orion Enfield, just my name. And then you can email me at orion@thephyteam.com. Give me a call. I think my phone number is on the Phi Team website, so just reach out. Would love to talk to you. I love talking about house hacking.
Excellent. And we can definitely see that. We love talking about house hacking. I mean, we pretty much talked about it for an hour straight, and I got so much more to ask already. But with that being said, I'm Ian Jimeno, Ian.realestateagent on Instagram, on YouTube, and TikTok. I guess I'm not too much on TikTok. I just repurpose that stuff. But nonetheless, like I got some weekly content with house hacking and tours inside other people's house hacks, including Orion himself. That's a really good video. And if I do say so myself, it's really good. And be sure to leave a like, follow, 5-star review, comment, subscribe, or whatever people are doing these days if you found this content beneficial. And of course, thank you so much, Orion, for being on the Invest in Denver podcast. And I'll see you later, man. I'll see you.
See you really soon.